It is Tuesday, May 9th, one day after my birthday, and the Give and Go show is back in your life. I did have to shout myself out a little bit there. My name is Griffin Queen, and as always, I'm joined by Matt Ferentinos and Matt Modi.
Hello.
We
How old are you, Griffin?
are, what's up?
How old are you?
I'm 31. No, it
Nice.
doesn't
Yeah,
feel great.
Welcome
It
to the
doesn't,
club.
it doesn't, am I the last one to turn 31? No, Modi, your birthday's still
I'll
coming up.
be about 2 weeks. Two
Yeah,
weeks from
yeah,
now.
you're later in May than I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll all be 31, gang, pretty soon. We are in the second round of the NBA playoffs. We took off last week because there was some travel going on. People were busy with work, all that fun stuff. In that time, the Lakers and the Heat have gone up 3-1 in their respective series. The Sixers and Celtics are tied at 2-2, and the Nuggets and Suns are also tied at 2-2. So we're going to keep it easy. We're going to keep it simple. We've got games tonight. We've got games tomorrow. We're going to talk about all of the respective matchups. And then once we get through that, maybe we'll talk a little bit about our presumed conference finalists, although there is still time to go for every team still in it. Before we get going, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you click that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment below. If you have something you want to say about any one of our teams, you're more than welcome to say so. You may notice if you're watching the video right now, Modi has a Sixers hat on. I've got a Lakers jersey on. Ferentinos has a Nets jersey on.
It is a James Harden jersey. It's relevant to the podcast and
It is
discussion.
relevant. James Harden coming off an incredible performance. And so with that, being the case, we'll talk about we're talking about Sixers first. Yeah.
Yep.
We're going back to Boston for this one. This is game 5. The Sixers won game 1. They won game 4. The Celtics won 2 and 3. So the Sixers are coming off a win. Modi, obviously, we got to go to you first. How you feeling coming off of that insane game?
Yeah, describe
4
that
victory?
game. That game was nuts.
Oh my God.
I started the beginning of the fourth quarter. Beginning of the fourth quarter. And that
I'm
was
not a
crazy.
fingernails biting stress kind of guy, but
do you eat?
Yeah, it was
I eat.
I play video games. I play Pokemon.
Okay.
Yeah, literally. Because you don't really need to think when you're playing Pokemon, so you can like brainlessly play while dying. That I didn't do that for game 3. I watched it with my significant other, which she immediately regretted. So game 4,
I believe that. I absolutely believe that she wishes she was doing anything else.
Yeah. So game 4, I was like, okay, I need to be doing something else other than dying on Twitter. Because we'll talk about game 4, but game 3 was the worst I've ever felt after a loss in a long time, because it was like, if James Harden just did anything, if he did anything, they would have won. Because Embiid was good that game, like legitimately good, 30 points, good on defense. Yeah. They just needed something from Harden, and he was Ben Simmons-esque. I had a meltdown on Twitter. Total meltdown.
I will say, I'm gonna interrupt you very quickly. You're great on Twitter during losses. I know that sucks for you because you're going through it. You're tweeting through it. But as an outside observer, I crack up when I see you going through losses on Twitter, because you are the definition of tweeting your way through it.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is Harden has won them their games. I legitimately don't think they could win a game unless James Harden has elevated them there. So it's like, I get it that he needed to do more to win that game, but at the end of the game in the fourth quarter, like Harden was the one that hit every important shot. Embiid
had a couple big moments.
He got pushed and fell and got bullshit free throws like he does whenever he's in the paint.
I also don't know how I feel about the charge call on him.
That was bullshit.
I
said that
the Tatum push off was really blatant. But the Embiid call, when they called it, I was like, oh, they're probably going to overturn this.
I've been known to,
they did not, and I was honestly pretty surprised by that.
Well, by the definition, that is an exact charge. His feet were planted outside of the zone, but that's why I hate that, because there's no effort to make a defensive play. It's literally just throwing yourself into the space of the player landing.
And he was moving. It's
the nuance of the term planted, because were his feet planted? His feet were
stationary. I guess
they were stationary, but I would still say he was sliding his body into place when it occurred. We're getting into the nitty gritty of it a little bit. I had asked Modi about how he felt about everything, so I'm going to turn it back to him. But I did want to just jump into that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I haven't gotten to game 4 yet, because the reason why game 3 was so frustrating, because we just needed him to do anything. Like game 2, Embiid was fine. He played like 26 minutes, like whatever. Like that was a schedule loss, quote unquote. Game 3, was there for the taking. They were like, even with James Harden shitting himself, they were down by 4 and late in the fourth quarter after making a run. gave up an offensive rebound. Al Horford hit 3, and then it was curtains. So
Yeah.
Going into game 4, I was like, I mean, you just don't know which James Harden is going to show up. He won them games 1 and 4, won them. Like if he was 5% worse in any of those games, they lose both of them. Like he could not have
game 1 was a schedule loss. Game 1 was the
correct.
definitive schedule loss.
Yeah.
And he dragged that team up to OT and was like, no, buckets, I'm doing this.
Yeah. But the reason why like a bad James Harden game is like he's not trying. And that's what makes me so frustrated. Like Embiid was horrible in the fourth quarter of game 4. But he went at Horford. Like that was my thing. Like at least he tried.
I wish he wouldn't. I wish he wouldn't go at Horford.
Yeah.
Horford is Embiid's like literal.
I don't get it. Like Horford's a good defender. Don't get me wrong, but he has probably 50 pounds and like 3 inches on him. Like he's not.
He's like 1,000 years old.
It doesn't make the mental space that Al Horford occupies in Joel Embiid's mind. I don't understand. It's like that.
It's not even just Joel Embiid's mind. It's the mind of the Sixers organizations, considering they paid Horford him specifically to avoid the matchup, and then Horford was awful on the Sixers.
I know.
I think he hates Philadelphia.
He should. I think he should
hate a double agent.
Yeah, he should hate Philadelphia. I don't blame him for that. But how am I feeling going into game 5? I have no idea what to expect. Like we've seen the highest of all highs with James Harden, and we've seen the lowest of all lows. Like we saw literally him turn into Ben Simmons for 2 straight games. We made 5 combined field goals and scored 28 points combined, sandwiched by 2 40-point just like masterpieces. I think Embiid
moved into the top 10 of 40-point playoff scores.
Yeah, I saw that. I think Embiid's going to be better. Like I think Doc played him too much. That was my biggest complaint. Was like they gave B-Ball Paul like 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, and then they took him out. Like give him a little bit longer than that. Like Embiid, you can probably say, because Embiid was really good in the first half. He was really good in the first half. He was really good in game 3. Shot 4 of 14 in the second half. Like
you think it was more his stamina or the injury that was the reason he was gassed?
I think it was a combination of both.
Probably both. Although I think Embiid's always kind of been one of those guys who's been open that he needs to play himself back into shape. Because particularly since it's always lower body injuries with him, it's not like he can do cardio when he's injured. So I get being gassed. Also, you're like 280, 290, like you're gigantic.
Hard to move.
And he played 46 minutes. Like that's like a heavy
it's not like he's playing low minutes in these games. The only game that he played low minutes was game 2.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at his counting stats, it makes a lot of sense. He had like 15 and 3. He had a bunch of blocks. So give him credit for
back,
that.
Just like
physically. Yeah. So I think Embiid will be better. I have no idea what to expect from Harden. I think probably like the most likely scenario is probably the Celtics win in a blowout. But like the thing with the Celtics, and it's been this way since last year, is like if you could just keep the game close, their crunch time offense is horrendous. It's
Mazzulla should be fired, but he should have been fired yesterday.
Okay, but so this is a conversation. I don't think it's a Mazzulla thing. It happened last year.
I agree. I agree. It's not a Mazzulla thing, and also the fact that
why doesn't Brad Stevens fix it then? Because clearly it's like that was poor. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Brad Stevens has built an incredible team. I'm not going to take anything away from Brad Stevens. The fact that all these people are saying, and I understand both perspectives on this, that Mazzulla should have called a timeout when there was like 9 seconds to go or whatever.
When they were down, I think they should have called a timeout.
And
I think it was a good call to
the play that ended up leading
tied.
to the Marcus Smart 3 that was after the fact. I do not think it makes sense to call a timeout there, because if you call a timeout, Doc is getting Maxey off the court. He's potentially getting Harden off the court. Like he's making a bunch of different
putting in his defenders. Yeah.
And you're likely ending up with a very similar shot. The issue that I have with that is that Jason Tatum goes into his action every fucking time.
4 seconds,
like 3.5 seconds to go, 4 seconds to go. And it's like, dude, if you have 9 seconds to work,
go with then.
Go with 7 seconds left. Go with 6 seconds. Like if you leave them 1 second on the clock and they don't have any timeouts and they have to advance the ball fully, they're not gonna get the shot.
Like you're leaving your feet.
They already used their challenge. They'd already used their timeouts. Like, what are you doing? If you wait for, like, you're waiting for there to be 0.2 left on the clock, you're gonna fuck these up. And it's happened to the Celtics multiple times over the past 2 seasons. And it's Tatum being lackadaisical with the ball.
Yeah,
and Marcus Smart hit that. Like Marcus Smart hit his shot. He made the shot.
I know. That's the craziest part. Yeah. I totally lost my train of thought. At the end of regulation, that was acceptable because the game's tied. Like that's what you want to do at the end of regulation. You want to give them one shot. But when you're losing, you need to do it as quickly as possible.
You need a bucket. You need a bucket.
Just to have a drawn up play, even if it's a catch and shoot. Like I think that's where it's like okay, trust the players, I understand, but call a timeout, advance it to half court, get a good shot opportunity, a good inbounds, the matchup you want. Like you have time to draw a play up. And I was just listening to like Pardon My Take, but they were talking about how the coach's comments. He said like after that he wasn't really sure what play he had or wanted to draw up.
Yeah,
Like, you
that's a
should
problem.
fucking know what play you want to
I
draw
don't think
up.
Missoula is a great coach.
Yeah.
I will
So
say
I
that.
mean, but I think
I just
that
don't
it's
know if I blame him for
Yeah.
this instance, because it's something that we've seen from both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, where they have these late game opportunities and they just whiff.
I think it's like, but coaches get a lot of blame for their teams losing in football when it comes to the last 2 minutes and poor clock management. Like this was a situation where you could have stopped the clock, gathered everyone together, and like taken a breath and had a set play. I think that's like all coaching errors, in my opinion, at least. I think
know. Tatum should just go up. Like both times he had Maxey.
Oh, he should have
both
just
times
shot.
he passed it.
Yeah.
Both times, like I get Embiid's in the paint, but like you can score. Like Embiid's good. Don't get me wrong. Like he's scored on.
But he's also gassed at that point.
He's exhausted.
Like Tatum has much fresher legs than Embiid just by virtue of being both younger than him and not injured.
Yeah.
And the way he gets contact, he definitely could have drawn a foul too. Like, I mean,
I don't think they're going to call it, but if there is a team that they're going to call it for, and I'm not going to be biased, the Lakers are also among the realm of teams that they would call it for in a late game situation. The Celtics are one of those teams. Like,
and
if the refs are going to finally call a last 15-second foul, the Celtics are going to be the team benefiting from it.
Yeah, that's true. Especially like the way that game had gone in terms of like the two clear advantages. But yeah, that's like another broader issue with Tatum is he doesn't like to draw contact. Like it was my biggest issue with him last year. And he started to do that this year. And then he's probably like, well, that shit's exhausting. I'm not doing that anymore.
I think it fucks him up. Yeah. I think he's always going to have these shoulder injuries that he's had because he's had them for 2 out of the past 3 seasons.
Yeah.
He's kind of going the Paul George route a little bit, where he's just got this constant nagging injury that makes him want to play a certain way. It's kind of what turned Paul George into a jump shooter instead of a guy that was going through contact. Obviously, you also have the leg break, which kind of scared him away from it for a couple of years. But Jason Tatum, he tries to play like Devin Booker sometimes, and like he's not Devin Booker. Devin Booker doesn't need to go through contact because Devin Booker has a much better mid-range game and has a bigger bag than Tatum does. Tatum is the better athlete. Go be the better athlete.
And we've talked about this a million times, but he has fallen in love with age 36 Kobe Bryant, and like that's how he feels. Every shot is a tough contested step back or mid-range, and like just go to the rim. Like he could probably. That's another frustration I have with him. I mean, not frustration as a Sixers fan, but just with the Celtics as a whole. It's like him and Jaylen Brown could probably score whenever they wanted, because like at all times, one of Maxey and Harden is on the court, if not both at the same time. Like those are 2 clear defensive mismatches that the Celtics just don't take advantage of.
I will say I'm liking Jaylen Brown a lot, but I mean, Jaylen Brown was incredible in the playoffs last year. I like him even better in the playoffs this year, even if the Celtics end up losing, because he's tightened his dribble up so much in comparison to how it was last year. I mean, there was a point where Jaylen Brown had the ball down the stretch in that Warriors series on like 3 or 4 back-to-back possessions. And I think he only got knocked for like 3 turnovers because he ended up like getting the ball off to a teammate who ended up getting knocked for a turnover. But Jaylen Brown in the clutch last year with the ball handling and the passing, he was going off his feet. He was like dribbling off his knee. He was trying to get bad shot attempts. He's significantly better this year than he was last year. But I think Jason Tatum has regressed a little bit. I think he looks worse at this playoff run than he did last year. And last year he was highly inconsistent.
Yeah, my thing with Jaylen Brown is like it's like he blows his load in the first quarter. Like he's had double-digit scoring outputs in 3 of the first.
He plays a little bit like a big man in the first quarter.
Yeah,
he goes super fucking hard, and then he kind of like I don't know if it's a game plan thing. I don't know if it's because he wants his teammates to get involved. It's like the opposite of what LeBron did the other night, where he just completely took a back seat in the first half and was trying to set guys up. I mean, you go and you look at that game. LeBron could have had 15 assists in that first quarter. He was hitting guys right where they wanted to be. They were just missing shots. Didn't take a single field goal attempt. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Lonnie Walker's got a lot of those games in him, but you know. But Jaylen Brown is like, I'm going to be a first. Kristaps Porzingis is the same thing. He's a first quarter king. He's one of the best first quarter players in the league, and then the production just tapers off so quickly.
Yeah, but I still think that we're talking about two of the Celtics' best shot makers, and
Sure.
yet Marcus Smart took both shots. My brother and
Well,
I
Mark,
like
if you ask
joked
Marcus
like,
Smart, he is their
He-
best shot
well,
maker.
He should be
when
too,
he
yeah.
shot that three and made it, Josh turned to me and said, Marcus Smart game winner. And I was like, well, I bet there's going to be a Marcus Smart game winning attempt, but I don't know if it'll be a game winner. And then he freaking missed it. And then I can't believe that he got the shot at the end, too. I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you mess that up twice? Like, I get at the end of, at the end of the fourth quarter at regulation, how you like that happens. It was a great shot attempt and good setup. Like, he probably should have hit the shot, but in overtime to like mess that up again, it's just awful.
Yeah.
Like,
And of course, that one goes in.
very on
yeah,
brand.
yeah, and that one does go in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm curious is like I'm too close. Like I'm curious like what an outside perspective is. Like if I were to view it without like a Sixers lens, it's like 2 games that were close, the Sixers won, 2 games that were blowouts, the Celtics won.
Yeah.
Like the Celtics are probably the better team. They just
They
like they fumble their way in the fourth quarter. So like my thought is that if the Sixers can keep it close, like they could win the next 2 games. It would not be the craziest thing in the world if they won the next 2 games. Because like
I have the Sixers winning this series despite the Celtics being the better, more talented, more in shape, more ready to go, arguably better coach team. Although at this point, it's like
maybe
it's
better
a
looking. No,
I think it's a wash in the coaching. And honestly, I would probably favor, like, if you're going to ask for like a floor general, I'd say probably James Harden over, a Derek White or a Malcolm Brogdon or one of the Jays or whatever. James Harden is the best floor general in this matchup. And Embiid is the best big man in this matchup. But in everything else, the Celtics have the advantage. They have depth advantage. They have experience advantage. They've got everything. I'm still picking the Sixers to win this series. I don't know why, but I am.
It's crazy that we've gotten to a point where I think is what I just said. I think Doc Rivers is a better coach than Joe Mazzulla. I think
Joe Mazzulla is a highly average coach, but it's also like it's one of those things. It's kind of like Scott Brooks during the OKC years.
Is he just
how am I ever going to know what kind of coach you are if you have this just like godly talented, super deep roster? What do you have to do as a coach? I mean, like you can kind of say it about like Steve Kerr and stuff like that, but we kind of know who Steve Kerr is because we also saw him get these guys over the hump. And we've also seen him in bad years, and then we've seen him figure it out again with like essentially a new roster behind his big three. I don't know. I mean, Scott Brooks, we learned, despite him winning Coach of the Year at one point, I think in 2012 or whatever, when they won like 60 games, that he's a bad coach. Like he's an average coach. I mean, he's not a bad coach. He's an average coach. I think Joe Mazzulla is probably an average coach. I think Ime Udoka might be an average coach.
Yeah, but we will never know. Like, I guess he was
there when these guys ascended. I think Brad Stevens is the guy that really deserves all the credit because he put the team together, him and Danny Ainge. But Brad Stevens is the one who's gotten all these acquisitions the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can't find a coach though.
Yeah. Ferentinos, who do you have winning the series? Who do you have winning tonight first?
Celtics.
Celtics winning tonight and the series.
I just think Embiid with an injury, he's not going to get healthier as the playoffs go on. So that's where I think it's going to be like every series is going to be just a slog no matter
how quickly can he fly
out.
To like Russia or something to get that stem cell shit.
I mean, like I think you can make the argument that he will get better as the series goes on because like his knee's going to get healthier. Assuming he'll get in better shape and his knee will get healthier. So I kind of think the opposite. Like I think he will get better as it goes on. I think the bigger issue is how the game goes itself. Like if he plays 40 plus minutes, he's going to like flame out in the fourth quarter. Like we've seen this in plenty of playoff runs before. He just loses gas as the game goes on because he's responsible for being their best defender. And he has like a huge responsibility on defense. So I don't necessarily blame him, but it also is a fact that he slows down as the game goes on.
If there's a way for Doc to get B-ball Paul out there for 12 to 16 minutes, and I don't think it's going to be 16, but if he can be out there for a good 12 minutes against the bench unit and a few minutes against the starters, and you can get Embiid out there for like 36 to 38, like there's a way to get him to the end and have him on not fresh legs, but fresher legs.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not Doc Rivers is going to do that. Because
then you think like
Paul Reed, as much as I like him, does have his flaws, and this team is going to take advantage of him on the defensive end. I think there's a way to make it work.
Yeah, he's at least active. Like he gets offensive rebounds. Like he'll foul a lot, and then he also might get a block or he'll get a steal. Like at least he's just doing crazy stuff. Like you can't put Paul Reed in a box.
There's also the benefit of Embiid's point guard being James Harden. So when he's sitting, I mean, James Harden can slow the game down in a way that is absolutely going to maximize Embiid's rest. But Embiid needs to be off the court during those periods, because if he's on the court, he's not. I know there's some guys that can do the whole resting on the court thing. LeBron's done it for 8 years at this point. I don't think Embiid's really at that point, because he goes from zero activity to explosion so quickly, and he hits the ground or he hits other players so often that I don't think it's like actual rest time.
And I don't think as a center, I don't like the defense.
No, you're too involved.
I don't think you can do that. You can't hide him on defense.
I mean, I would argue that he doesn't need to hit the ground as much, but it's easier to get a free
you
throw.
And I have both obviously argued that a million times, but I don't think Embiid is going to change his strategy halfway through a second round playoff series
or in his entire career. I don't think.
Like if I'm Embiid, I'm saying, well, I've had mostly a healthy career since 2 back-to-back broken foot injuries. So like if this, like, I'm not saying this is what's keeping him healthy, but if he thinks this is what's keeping him healthy, then he's going to keep doing it. I hate it. Right. I hate how much he falls down. Like I hate flopping. Like I hate all that shit. But if he thinks it works, then he's going to do it.
You know what I think is really great? James Harden is, what did they call Devin Booker the other day? An ethical scorer. James Harden has been an ethical scorer lately.
He hasn't been.
He's not going to the line. He's not doing the flopping bullshit. He's hitting mid ranges. He's hitting threes. He's getting to the rack. He's hitting the open man. Like
Houston Harden.
This is the ideal version of Harden. If we could get it for every single game.
I was gonna say in 2 of 4 games we have gotten that.
But he like hit them in all different ways. He had a step back 2. He had a floater
because his bag is
drove in
shit.
And got the left-handed layup over, I think, Brogdon, or I don't know who was guarding him at the time, and then to hit the corner 3. Like that's why he was my favorite player on the Nets, like the superstars. Like KD is good, but Harden plays like winning basketball. I think that's the big difference, is that he can, like, because he's a floor general, win you those games. Like,
because we're a results-oriented culture. If James Harden wins this series, the narrative on James Harden is, even if they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, the narrative on James Harden will likely shift in a different direction. And then next year it'll likely shift again. Like, that's the thing with a couple of these guys who are hugely controversial. This narrative is always going to shift on them based on what have you done lately.
NBA Hitler.
If he has good performances, even if they lose the next 2 games, like, yeah, you can knock him for losing games 2 and 3, games that they were essentially supposed to lose anyways. But you gotta give him his credit for.
I don't necessarily agree that game 3 was a game that they should have lost.
Weren't they underdogs in game 3?
They were underdogs, but like there's like the.
I mean, like, yeah, you can make an argument, but game 1 they absolutely should have lost. That was
100%. 100%. Yeah,
he dragged it out of them.
Embiid should give that Rolex back to James Harden, because like if they had lost game 4, and I mean, imagine what people would have been saying about Embiid. Like that was could have been a career-defining loss for Embiid because of how bad he was in the 4th quarter.
Without Horford.
I mean, this run, like it is with James Harden's career, it is going to, in a lot of ways, probably define this era of Sixers basketball, particularly if Harden leaves for the Rockets next year.
Yeah,
because who are they going to run it back with? Like, Tobias Harris's deal will be done soon, so there's going to be some money there you can work with.
He's expiring.
Hopefully you hope for Maxi's development. Like there's a lot of things you can hope for, but then you're rebuilding essentially a new team around Embiid when he's 30. And there's the injury history, and there's just the slowdown that you see from scoring centers at that age. And it's a lot of question marks. So like,
it's probably
there's a lot more to this series than just Sixers Celtics. It's also, what's the story of the Sixers?
And like on this, like the Celtics side of it, like Jaylen Brown's due for a supermax. Like, are they just going to max him out? Like, I feel like both teams could look a lot different.
I don't think Jaylen Brown is going to be there for much longer.
He seems like he doesn't like it. And
he seems 1 foot out the door. I think he wants to be the number 1 option somewhere.
I think he hates that he's always
anywhere but the Nets. I don't need a head case on the
I'm
Nets
just saying.
There's a lot of Jaylen Brown. I would take Jaylen Brown.
A lot of buzz
I could see him being a year away from retirement. Watch him be a year away from his Kyrie bullshit where he starts being on all his social stuff. I don't know, man.
Dude, I think every single team could use a J. I mean, I guess the mental gym, like, I don't know necessarily how he is as a teammate, as a player. What, 32?
His teammates seem to like him, and that's important. I mean, look, Kyrie's teammates like him.
That's true. Yeah. That's the craziest part, is that through all of it, his teammates Kyrie's teammates have always said positive things about him.
Yeah, because his teammates aren't wrapped up in the political bullshit and like what he says on Twitter and the fact that him and KD both refer to themselves as like God and all that shit.
But
like,
I was gonna say,
they
I'm
don't
sure
give a
it's because
shit.
it's the celebrity aspect of it, though. Like he
Yeah.
is a legend in his own right, so it's like,
And these guys are all insulated
but
from the real world.
And
Yeah.
Kyrie does stuff that like nobody else can do. So like I think you just watch him do that and you're like, yeah, I'll put up with
That's
this
the
shit because that's fucking
there's
talented.
an argument no one's had better handles in the NBA, which
Yeah.
is nuts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like
We've talked about Celtics Sixers a lot longer than I expected to, which kind of makes sense because we have a Sixers fan with us.
it's not my fault.
Moda, your prediction for tonight's game?
I think they're gonna lose. Like I saw a stat. This is we don't have to keep going, but that
The Sixers. You think the Sixers are gonna lose?
In the Joel Embiid era, they have an average loss margin of 18.5 points in game 5 in the Joel Embiid era. Yeah.
Well, then I kind of regret having my daily prediction article recommending betting the spread
Sixers.
on the Sixers. I said get the Sixers at plus 7.5 because I think the Celtics are going to win, but I think this is the game where the Sixers finally keep it close. And a loss, I could be very wrong about that.
I feel like Monday's not a big strip club night though, so the Sixers might cover.
I think when you are a 100
James
millionaire,
Harden.
any night can
Any
be a
night.
big strip club night because you can call in whoever you want to be.
Yeah, you can fly them in.
No.
But
Okay, let's move on to Nuggets.
Suns,
Suns
Nuggets.
then.
Probably the best
or I guess
series,
Suns,
I would
Nuggets.
say.
I like couldn't
best?
believe just watching the Suns
most
go
entertaining.
nuclear. I'll say it again. Nuclear.
Thank you.
With KD and Booker, like Booker just shooting historic over his last 2 games, but then still having the Nuggets put on the gas. That's the thing. Like Jokic and Murray playing their 2-man game might be the most fun. It's like literally when you learn how to do like a give and go in soccer, it's like, how do you get around defenders? It's pass and cut.
Casual name drop.
And like Murray is, if there was like another guard, like we always talk about like players that we wish were better off the ball. Like Murray is exceptional off the ball, and Jokic is so good at getting those passes to him, like right around the free throw line, so that Murray can hit a floater, step back, figure out where Jokic's spot is. Like it's literally masterful just like watching them play. And yeah, like Jokic was hitting stupid shots. That it's a really entertaining series. I think the Nuggets need something out of Michael Porter Jr. or just
Absolutely
another role player to
he
really
and
step up.
Michael
because,
Porter
yeah,
Jr.
like,
lost in the game the other night.
that freaking
Both for
fast
not
break
being
shot,
willing to
that
take
three was
shots
so
and also
bad.
just the amount that he was missing and how
Yeah.
poor his defense has been against the Suns when you need him and Aaron Gordon need to be like locking things down. I will say in game 4, I didn't think Jamal Murray, I thought the numbers looked pretty good, but the amount of time that he was holding the ball and the amount that he was slowing down the offense, I didn't particularly enjoy, particularly because Jokic was so locked in that it was like, let him keep working. But Jamal Murray has been far more good than bad during this playoff run. So, you know, you're going to have some games where you don't play a way that I think
it's more just you
play.
just notice they always get in the action.
They have incredible
like
chemistry
even if
with each other.
Jokic is the one
Yeah.
who does it, and like Murray doesn't do well, but he'll still get a free layup set up just by that action that gets you in the groove. So even if you do have an off night, you get easy buckets. But I do agree, like he could.
Did you guys see Devin Booker's shot chart?
Oh,
Yeah, there's like one spot where he's red.
There's one spot where he's 1 of 3.
Yeah.
And that is the only spot where he's shooting below like 45%.
It's insane.
Which is fucking dumb.
He's
and again,
crazy.
an ethical scorer because he's not getting to the line. He's doing all this shit, whether it's hitting stuff in transition, whether it's hitting mid-range jumpers on guys, he's burying threes on people. He's playing essentially point guard because Chris Paul's been out. And even when Chris Paul is in, Devin Booker at this point is better at running the point for the Suns team than Chris Paul is because Chris Paul is another guy who likes to slow the game down. And that's not how these Suns like to run.
I was going to say, because KD can run and like Shamit, or they're saying that
somehow
shooter,
KD at 1,000 years old can still run.
It's 1,000 injuries later.
But just like the idea of
the dude is fearless.
Keeping the ball hot.
You know?
Yeah.
They need they need 2 different teams. They need like a Chris Paul team where they slow it down and just like maximize shots, and then they need the run and gun team with like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker just surrounded by shooters.
I've been of the opinion for probably 5 years now that it doesn't work with his money, and part of it is because Chris Paul is completely unwilling to take a pay cut because of his position with the NBA Players Association. If he ran the second unit, I don't see a world where if he's on a reasonably built team, they don't win a title.
He
because
makes like
he does everything that you want a second unit guard to do, and he spends so much time doing that shit that your starters are going to be fresh as fuck every time they
yeah.
touch the court.
And
Yeah,
he
his
makes like Bismack Biyombo look like an all-star center. Like he can make it work with any type of
He's
center.
one of those dudes that gets guys, even with stone hands and no ball handling, he gets them paid.
He's a Trae Young,
But
yeah.
he doesn't work as your starting point guard because he can't do a lot of the things that they need him to do. I mean, he's old, he's broke down, he's always got these playoff injuries, and he costs $50 million.
Yeah, it doesn't work when you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Like
Yeah.
that's the problem. It doesn't like it worked pre Kevin Durant because you didn't have someone like him who could score, and all they really had were catch and shoot players, so it worked out perfectly. But
Yeah.
like their offense was, even in the Clippers series when they won in 5, like you could tell their offense was like not really clicking. It was like kind of clunky. Like Durant was just like in the Mikal Bridges role, just like spotted up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident that if the Clippers are healthy, they're pushing it to 7, if not winning the series. I mean,
well,
the Suns have looked better against the Nuggets than they did against the Clippers.
Correct. Yeah.
The Clippers absolutely outplayed our expectations for the Clippers in that series, despite losing in 5.
Yeah. Once we realized Kawhi was out, it was kind of like, okay, like they're just going to have to be plucky and try hard. Yeah.
do you think that because
did.
do we know anything about Chris Paul is just coming back from an injury? Because I'm saying maybe that is a way that they work it into him playing reduced units or with the second unit. And then if that wins them games, just like, hey, maybe do it while you're like coming back from an injury all postseason. And if we
I don't think Chris Paul would
title.
reject it. I think he's kind of a dude who's like, this is my last run. I want to win. I don't know if they would suggest it. And I don't even know if he's coming back.
Yeah.
That's also part of it.
It's a big question. Like
it was a while ago where it was
all
like
these teams don't
5.
report shit the way they used to because they don't have an obligation to. Everyone lies about injury reports now.
We found out after the fact. Yeah, Kawhi had a torn meniscus.
We found out about Kawhi after the fact. I mean, like I'm sure if we didn't see Tyler Hero break his wrist on the court, we would not have heard that Tyler Hero couldn't come back into that series because the Heat lie about it all the time. Like there's certain teams that just they're not going to tell you, and like that's their prerogative, whatever. But I don't think that they're going to tell us when Chris Paul is coming back until he's a couple hours from being on the court.
Yeah, like a soft tissue injury for a 39-year-old who's had a history, like that's concerning to me.
Yeah,
like, any type of that stuff is going to be scary. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like I find it hard to believe that they can continue to put up, like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker can continue to put up 80 points. I also find it hard to believe that Landry Shamet is going to make like 5 3-pointers moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, he was really big for that. He was super efficient from beyond the arc, and he hasn't been. So, but I mean, if the rest of your team is taking on such a massive offensive load, maybe you can find your rhythm. I don't know.
I mean, luckily all they need to do is catch and shoot, and like they stop playing.
So he was just in rhythm because it's literally if Booker or KD is the one like throwing it into a good swing where you get a wide open wing shooting it, like you just need one. And TJ Warren's capable of doing that too. Like he's a hot shooter, made some important free throws at the end of the game. Like I don't think the Suns pieces are, I guess they're stepping up. They're obviously not great, but they're doing what they can. Again, though, in a close game where KD and Booker absolutely had to go off for them to stay competitive, because I just think the way that Jokic can generate offense and the Nuggets are a deeper team, I think, and their wins are more like decided than the Suns wins, where it's similar in that way to the Celtics Sixers series.
I was just going to say that.
It's
very interesting similarities between the two series, like two studs, like not a deep team against like a team that's probably like not probably is more talented. But like what's going to win out?
I mean, you look at this most recent Suns Nuggets game. If Kevin Durant and Devin Booker each miss one more shot, this game goes to overtime. Like that. Yeah. That's literally the difference. And the two of them combined for 80 some of the 129 points. Like they combined for over 60 or 70% of the points. Jokic on the other side of things had 53 and like 11 or whatever it was. He contributed to essentially the same number of points that Booker and KD scored. Obviously, Booker and KD were also dishing out dimes and stuff, although many of them went to each other. But like, if anybody else on the Nuggets really steps up in game 4, the Nuggets are up 3-1 right now.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Suns are going to be able to do this 2 more times while the Nuggets don't do it. Like, I think the Nuggets are going to be able to lock in a way more easily than the Suns do, because the Suns are essentially playing perfect basketball behind their big two. Like their big two are playing perfect basketball. The Nuggets have a higher level they can get to because they have better role players, and they have better starters outside of the top three.
Even shooting 50, 40, 90 with Booker and KD, the Suns lose that game, which is crazy. Like, they could shoot historically well, and they still would have lost the game. They just were that much better, which is nuts.
They were both just incredible, and I mean, they deserve all the credit in the world for these past 2 wins. So do their teams. I mean, not DeAndre Ayton, because I think he had like 8 and 8.
I was gonna say,
so fucking sick of seeing that dude on the court, and I really hope he goes somewhere else because he clearly does not want to be in Phoenix.
Jock Landale is better than
Landale.
He is.
His plus minus is like plus 28 or something like that compared to Ayton. Or no, he might be like plus 12, but Ayton's like minus 28. Like he's just
and I really want to take the opportunity to shit on the University of Arizona, but Aaron Gordon also went to the University of Arizona, so like somebody from there is playing good this series. But James Harden, between all those people, was playing the best. And he's a Sun Devil. So ASU, baby, let's go. What is our prediction for tonight, and what is our prediction for the rest of the series? Modi, let's start with you.
Nuggets.
Same here.
Okay.
Kind of chalk.
We're hammering.
Go with the favorite.
Like if you're gonna, at least for tonight's game, like the Nuggets are incredible at home. The Suns are very average on the road to below average. Like this is an easy one.
I'm taking the MVP.
Could end up being wrong.
Of 2022.
All right, let's move on to tomorrow's games. We've got Miami against the Knicks in New York. Miami is up 3-1 in this series. My God, how good that they have looked, how good Jimmy Butler has looked. I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on this one. I think the Knicks are essentially being outplayed in every respect by largely one player. Jalen Brunson's had ups and downs. Julius Randle has had ups and downs. There's been some injuries to the Knicks. I think Thibodeau's usual style of running his guys into the ground is
they're getting exhausted.
We're seeing the same thing that happens every time it's a Thibodeau team in the second round. They're exhausted. I don't know. Ferentino's thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, when Jalen Brunson is the superstar generating all the offense and the role players just aren't stepping up. Like when the Knicks role players are doing well, you're like, wow, they got a team with like Julius Randle. They got Josh Hart playing really well. They got, like a bunch of like kind of young talent, like from like maybe like 4 or 5 year vets. And when they play bad, they're like, oh, they're just a bunch of garbage players all on the same team. Yeah. And I just think the Heat, are really gelling right now. Jimmy Butler's
I think the Knicks, there's a lot of talent on the Knicks. In their losses, I look at it and I'm like, how do you fit? Like how does any of this fit? And then they win games and I'm like, oh, that's how. And then it goes back to losses. And I'm like I can't ever, I feel like there's zero consistency to this team, despite the fact that they almost won 50 games and they're in the second round of the playoffs. Every time I watch them, I don't understand what I'm watching because sometimes they seem like more than the sum of their parts. And sometimes it's just like a bunch of individuals who want to go to Cancun as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And it's like, I think Brunson needs to help unlock Barrett's potential too. And like help him just really take that next step. So I don't think they're going to do anything unless Barrett makes like a sizable leap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like they just can't score. Like Julius Randle's been horrible. He was good against the Cavs, but he's been terrible. And so I don't like how bad do the Cavs look now after seeing what the Heat are doing to the Knicks?
Cavs should not have gotten rid of Kevin Love. I think we can all collectively agree on that one. He looks incredible.
I don't necessarily know that
he's QB1 right now, throwing
his passes to
everybody.
Yeah. I don't necessarily know that Kevin Love's the difference between what the Heat are doing and what the Cavs did, but yes, sure. I do agree with you.
I think just a little bit of depth he would have added would have made that a more competitive series.
And just having like a vet who's been there before is like it was really only Donovan Mitchell who had been there before for the Cavs.
And Donovan Mitchell was a young guy. Like he'd been there with the Jazz as a super young player. And then, like kind of got worse every year because the Jazz got worse every year.
Yeah.
The whole commitment to the youth movement, I think, may have been a little bit of a mistake from the Cavs.
At least for this year. Like maybe it'll help moving forward. We'll have to see. But to me, I just don't like the fact that the Heat are getting away with like Kyle Lowry and Cody Zeller pick and rolls, and that's like their most efficient play, and like that's carrying their second unit. Like it's the Jesse Pinkman meme. Like they can't keep getting away with this. Like they keep getting these like random jabronis and like playing incredibly huge important minutes in the playoffs. Heat
culture.
Like, it literally is Heat culture.
And look, I've shit on the guy constantly throughout the season, throughout the postseason, throughout the past couple of years. Bam Adebayo makes me really upset with the way that he plays offense. But defensively, now that he seems like he's making peace with taking a backseat on offense, defensively, the guy's a monster. Like he's right up there with Anthony Davis as being able to completely change the direction and the shape of a game with his defense.
And he's been good.
If he continues playing, he has been. And that's honestly what I think works for Bam. And I think he gets away from it. When his defense is rolling, his offense looks really good because he makes everything so much easier for the rest of his team. But when he tries to be like a 25-10 guy and take a bunch of mid-range, like he doesn't go to the rack very often. Like there's certain things he doesn't like to do on offense. When he starts overthinking things is when he falls apart a little.
Yeah, he's not a talented scorer. Like you thought that after the bubble, like when he was like, oh, he's going to make this leap and become
because he was
really
hitting jumpers and shit.
Yeah,
and it was like, oh yeah, the guy can score. And it's like, no, he can just hit jumpers sometimes.
Yeah. On offense, he's not as passive, but he kind of sometimes can give me like DeAndre Ayton vibes. Where it's like, can you just play to your size a little bit more? Like,
but then on defense, he does.
Not on, correct. This is
except he has the occasional really bad rebounding game, and I think part of that is that Miami really needs to pair a genuine center with him because really he is a power forward. But there's other games where he doesn't even need to have a good rebounding game because he blocks a bunch of shots and he's contesting everything at the rim and he's letting his teammates get the rebounds.
Yeah.
And
I just think, no, go ahead.
I don't think it's like to undersell Kevin Love's importance, though. He literally wasn't good enough for the Cavs rotation and they let him go. And now he's playing like starting minutes for the Heat.
Heat culture.
It's just, and it is though that kind of like plug and play guy that really did kind of help fill in a role in their roster. They have a guy confident with the ball who knows how to win, who can set people up for better plays. And then if he's hitting his threes at like 40%, like those are important shots, like off offensive rebounds, on a fast break if he's running, like, and those are valuable buckets. And Jimmy Butler is just like, on another level right now.
Yeah. I mean, it won't hurt them against the Knicks. And I don't think if the Sixers make it, it'll necessarily hurt them against them. But I just struggle to see how Kevin Love can stay on the floor. And I feel the way about like half the Heat. And yet, like,
I mean, even when he was in his prime, we struggled to see how Kevin Love would stay on the floor. I mean, that was the whole thing with those Warrior matchups is Kevin Love was the third best player on the Cavs for all 4 of those years. But he was probably the best matchup for the Warriors to just take advantage of the entire time.
Except when it was the last shot.
And now there's a lot of teams that can do what the Warriors do. Yeah, except for the stop, right? That's what they called it.
Yeah. The block and
the block, the shot, and the stop.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of AD last night against Curry.
Yeah.
Flashes of that.
Oh
game.
yeah, when he was like guarding him on the perimeter and Curry got the ball back and he got oh man, I was very
they wanted that
Kevin
matchup.
Love vibes. Yeah,
they wanted that switch.
Steph Curry 0 for 10 on go-ahead shots with 25 seconds to go in a game.
I saw that. Is it? I think it's like I think it's higher than 10. I think it's I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was like 12 or 14, but
it could be either of those numbers. All I know is the first number is 0.
0. Yes, that's correct.
I was gonna say Warriors' response though is like he don't need to if you blow them out by 20 every game, which is like how the Warriors would win.
Yeah. And also, and we'll get to them in 1 second. I mean, Steph Curry was the best player for the Warriors the entire night. I'm not going to knock him for being out of gas with barely 2 minutes left to go in the game when Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, and Andrew Wiggins were all basically awful the entire night.
Yeah. I mean, not much to me. I don't think there's much to say about the Heat Knicks. Like, I think the Heat close it out in 5. Like, I know the Knicks are favored. I think the Heat win. Like, I just don't think the Knicks can do enough. Like, the game they won, they barely won. Jimmy Butler didn't play. It's like, I don't think that gets talked about enough. Like, that's their only win of the series, and they barely won.
Yeah. Moda or Ferentinos?
We'll see. It'd be cool if the Knicks, if Jalen Brunson had like a pretty nice performance again in the Garden, just as his like farewell in the series and the playoffs at least, but then the Heat come back and win it. But at the same time, like I could see Brunson playing inspired basketball and Jimmy Butler just like hitting a bucket every time he does too. Yeah. But we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have the Heat winning the series, but as far as tomorrow night's game, I think it'll be close.
Okay, not a real prediction, but
I'll take the Knicks. Okay. I want Spike Lee to be happy.
Look, man, I'm okay with it because I'm also taking the Knicks to win Game 5 in the Mecca, and then I'm taking the Heat to win in 6. So this will be the last win for the Knicks. I think it'll probably be a close one. You know, it might be one of those ones where the box score doesn't really indicate how close it was because the Knicks might pull ahead by like 15 with 2 minutes to go because of foul baiting or whatever. But I think it's going to be close down the stretch, and the Heat are going to take over in Miami. Let's move on to my preferred matchup.
Hey.
Lakers currently up 3-1 on Steph Curry and the Warriors, which is very stressful, despite the fact that they're up 3-1. Because I
Being
feel
on the
like
opposite side of it.
this is about to be like the universe's irony. They're headed to San Francisco tomorrow. Yeah, I mean the Lakers have won a blowout and they've won two very, very close games. And the Warriors have won a blowout. So there's a very, very easy way to look at this and say the Warriors could be up 3-1 just as easily as the Lakers have been up 3-1. The Lakers executed a little bit better down the stretch in those two close wins. But I would not at any point say that there's like a massive talent gap between these two teams. They're very closely matched. I'm stressed out every single moment that the games are being played. What did you guys think about the game last night?
I mean, Lonnie Walker just coming clutch in the fourth, but I think
Yeah.
I'd be happier and more confident as a Lakers fan if because this isn't like the other series where it's like if the Lakers only win was like a close game and the Warriors were just like blowing them out in all their wins and like the Lakers were losing those close games. Different series. Like they're winning every time. They're coming through in the clutch. We have on the reverse pie chart or whatever the AD chart is, we have an up game coming up. So
Hate that
he's
shit,
gonna
man. Because I don't I like so last night should have been
Yeah.
his bad game.
But he played well last
He played
night.
really well. He had like
Yeah.
23 and 15. And I mean, honestly, it was his only night, I think, without any blocks, but he had like 3 or 4 steals.
And that
And
defense was good at the end. He disrupted
even
Curry
the
on
games where his
dribble.
offense has been bad, his defense has been
Yeah.
incredible. If Anthony Davis is like 10% worse defensively, the Lakers are getting swept in this series. Like he has been absolutely integral to this team getting where they are.
Giving a
So
lot
if
of
he
effort,
takes the night
too.
off on offense, like I'm not even going to be that upset about it. Like it's going to bum me out in the moment, but the dude is doing everything. He has absolutely been the best player on the Lakers since the start of the playoffs.
And I kind of feel that because the Lakers are in striking distance and just have one more game, like you don't think LeBron has one game in him when
I've
he's
been
gonna be like,
waiting.
I'm not losing in this
Yeah.
game. Like I
Give
think
me a 40-point performance so that he can get a little bit closer to number one all time. I don't
I
think
think
he's
he
going to
could
get
put
there
yeah.
because I saw somebody post today. He's 10 below Jordan. Jordan's got 38 40-point games in the playoffs, and LeBron has 28. I don't think he's going to get there in the next like couple of years.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
because LeBron's played like
absurd.
100 more games than him too.
Yeah,
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Jordan had 40-point games in the playoffs, like his first year in the league when he was getting like swept by the Celtics or whatever.
Celtics, yeah,
like he was putting up like 45 points a game in all those losses.
After Danny Ainge was kicking his ass in golf all day the day before.
I'd love to see LeBron have a turn back the clock game and just like absolutely take over from the opening bell. I don't know if it's going to happen though.
I keep waiting for it to happen. It never has.
Well, he had the first quarter, and their only loss was
14 or whatever.
Like,
He was incredible in that first quarter, but it didn't work out for them.
But I think he shifted too because he knows he has to get the team involved for them to win.
Yeah.
I think that's why LeBron's always been a better winner, maybe than Jordan has, you can say, just because of that huge gap in the beginning of Jordan's career and until he got the full team together. Like obviously, you know, there's people that are gonna still say he's the GOAT, but as far as like team basketball, like LeBron knows that that's how to win is to get everybody involved, to get people in rhythm, to get them shooting. Like he hasn't had to really do it yet, which is good. And I think that that's maybe why we might not see it this series. I just would love to see it. I would love to see him just be like, no, I'm winning this. This is the game that I'm going to win no matter what. And just
Game 6 against the Celtics in 2012 were
Yeah.
just like 18 straight points down the stretch where he just buries them by himself.
Where was his one against the Pistons too? That he
in the fourth quarter he had like 28 straight points.
Yeah, just literally scored every point for the
That was
Cavs.
nuts.
But
Yeah, I don't know.
that'd be awesome.
I like struggle with my. I mean, I think Lakers going to win the series. Game 5 specifically, I don't know. Like I could see like the Warriors just kind of seem mentally dead. That's kind of how I feel about them. Like they don't.
Everybody
look
but
terrible.
Steph Curry seems like they're out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like even against
They're all off the bus. They should have stayed off the bus. Curry is the only one going.
He is a definitive bus driver.
Yeah.
And every single, I don't care what Draymond Green says on his podcast. I don't care what Klay Thompson says to the media. I don't care how many fucking times he holds up the number 4. They're all bus riders next to him. Like he is the engine that drives everything that the Warriors have accomplished. And that's not to take away from the rest of them, but there's levels to this, and he is multiple levels above.
Yeah,
his teammates.
he's the conductor. He's like everything starts with Curry. Like they probably couldn't win without Clay or Draymond. Like they fine, but they also are like a below 500 team without Steph.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what happened in 2021 or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, they were missing
15 games.
They were missing Clay that whole year too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just
well,
Steph,
that's when they lost the play in, right? But they got hot at the end of the year. Was that the same year? Or was that
the
year
bubble
before,
year?
maybe?
They were horrible. They were like the worst team in the NBA.
Yeah.
Clay
that's
that
2020. Sorry, 2021. They lost 2 games in the bubble, which also people have been talking about that Warriors stat about how they're 18-0 in the Western Conference since 2015. I don't agree with that. I know it's because we do not count the play-in as either the regular season or the postseason. Like eventually, once there have been enough play-ins, then we'll just have a separate bracket for play-in stats. But that's more of the postseason than it is the regular season. And they lost 2 straight games in 2021. They have lost in the postseason. It's just not labeled as the postseason on Basketball Reference, and that's just the way that's
play-in works.
That's a mental thing. Like they have lost single elimination games.
Yeah. And that was a different Warriors team with no Clay. And I think was they have Wiggins at that point? I don't remember.
They didn't have Wiggins yet. I think they might have still had D'Lo, and then they traded D'Lo for Wiggins. I
don't remember when that went down. But they just knocked my headphones out. They just seem like they're, I don't know, even against the Kings, like that game 6 was like the most pitiful performance I've ever seen, like to close it out at home after winning 3 straight, and they just like didn't show up. And it's like you don't see that. You saw that from like the second year KD Warriors when they knew they could do it, but like this is not that team, so like you can't do it. So I don't know. I thought the Warriors win the series before the series. Obviously, being up 3-1 totally changes that. Now I just don't even trust them to show up at home because like they've lost 2 of their last 3 home games. So it's not like you can even use the argument, oh, they're just going to show up at home because like they're not even doing that recently.
I'm sure the Chase Center is going to be loud as hell. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of energy for the Warriors, but it's a LeBron team.
Who's reffing the game?
I don't know. I don't think
Scott Foster also wearing a Warriors.
I think if Scott Foster or Tony Brothers is there, they're gonna stretch it to at least 6. I mean, the NBA. Look, let's call it what it is. The NBA wants this to go at least 6.
Yeah,
like we can acknowledge that ahead of time. The fact that this could end in 5 is a bad thing for the league. Mm-hmm. Make of that what you will.
Yeah.
According to Kerr, I mean, they're out for the Lakers anyways. Lakers are getting away with illegal screens. Like the Warriors have never done that.
I know Warriors have said that, or fans have said that.
Let me pull
Steve Kerr has no room to say that.
Because the Lakers are a team that plays with a lot of gamesmanship. They understand how to generate some calls. I thought they took some flops and were rewarded. I'll have to see the replays. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, look, he's the coach.
And I think he was referring to plays where they like took a dive over a screen or something like that. And
the Warriors, Andrew Bogut talked about this, and I think we may have talked about this on an episode before. When he left Golden State and he went to Milwaukee, he talked about how he could set 30 illegal screens a game for the Warriors, and the refs would get lost in the moment because of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson just hitting these massive plays, and he wouldn't get called for any of it. And then he'd go to Milwaukee, and he was up to 3 fouls by the end of the first quarter. It's like if moving screens were called correctly, and maybe a hot take,
Draymond's great.
Warriors don't have a title. They don't have a single title. And that's not to say that like the Cavs would have those titles, because I'm sure they were doing it too. But moving screens have been, like illegal screens have been, a massive contributing part of the Warriors dynasty, and they have always done it at a much higher rate than any other team.
Because more points.
I feel like every screen at this point in the NBA is probably a moving screen. It's just how egregious is it or not? Yeah. It's like
I mean, Bogut was like punching guys in the gut.
Football.
Draymond hooks the elbow and like shivs you.
Yeah,
it's bad.
It's the holding call, and then it's like the I forget the name of this term when like you're like when you palm the ball, like everybody does it. Everybody does that when they dribble now, but the refs just don't call it. That's how I feel about a moving screen. Unless
some guys do it more. Ja Morant does it.
Ja Morant literally every dribble.
If Ja Morant got called for carries, he would average 18 points a game.
Yeah,
because it's so important to him getting to the rim is him being able to carry,
getting the momentum. Yeah. Like if
it's the same thing with Giannis and like offensive charges and stuff like that, or offensive fouls. If Giannis is not allowed, Honestly, I don't think he travels that much compared to everybody else. Everybody in the NBA travels.
There's just so many of those
Giannis
like
lowers
pivots
his
where
shoulder more than a lot of
yeah.
guys do. And
Yeah.
a part of that is like, he's built crazy, and it's the same stuff that like Shaq didn't get called for. So, you give it to them on both ends. Like you don't let Giannis get to the line as much as he probably deserves, just like you don't let LeBron get to the line as much as he deserves, but you let him get away with more on the offensive end. So it's a balance.
Yeah.
Except for John Morant, because John Morant doesn't play defense, but he does do all this stuff on the offensive
carries.
end. Yeah, the carries are ridiculous.
So I feel about Marcus Smart with him like flopping on like screens and stuff. Like the call that they made against the illegal screen on PJ Tucker in like the last minute of the fourth quarter was like one of the most egregious things in the world. It was like, and again, like I have Joel Embiid on my team, so like the flopping thing, I like am guilty of rooting for someone that does that. But the thing that makes me so mad about Marcus Smart is at least Embiid's talented. So he does other things. Marcus Smart just flops. That's what he does. He flops and that's it.
I'm surprised they're not clearing out the arenas more often when Marcus Smart is playing, because there's snipers in the rafters and they're only aiming for him.
I know. Yeah.
I'll say, Mo, did you notice that other like that Tatum drive where he just literally like jumped up in the air and didn't know what to do and like threw it behind him and they just called a foul? Like I was like, that was bullshit too. I think the Celtics had a lot of calls that kept him in the game there at the end. They worked their way back. I'll give them credit, but it did seem like they were getting a lot of calls at the end too.
Did you guys watch Warriors Lakers last night?
I didn't watch the second half. I just watched
the
highlights.
Well, at the end of the game,
highlights.
before Curry's turnover where he like throws the ball out of the bound.
Oh, the one out of bounds. It's just on the ground. Yeah.
They who drove with it? Draymond drove with the ball, thinking he was going to hit Clay for a shot. Anthony Davis or whoever it was stole
LeBron
the ball.
Told him to switch.
That was LeBron conduct, yeah.
And Wiggins fouls him from behind. And not only does he foul him from behind, but he's out of bounds when he does it. Clay fouls him from the front. They call a tie-up and a jump ball, despite the fact that, and they call it for Wiggins to have, despite the fact that he's out of bounds on the entire play.
Oh,
like that's the shit that they do. Like, and they're not going to review it. And if you've already used your challenge, with the Lakers did in the first half, you shit out of luck. Like, fuck you.
That's like the most frustrating thing about the refs is I don't actually think, most of the time, I don't think they actually have an agenda. I just hate it when they're inconsistent, when they call one thing one way and then not another way. Like that's the most frustrating thing. And especially when it seems like, and I feel like everybody thinks this about their team, that calls go against them. Like I think most games, both fan bases have a legit gripe with the refs. But the problem with the Sixers Celtics game is that like so many of them were high profile.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way, and that's the way it's going to be in the playoffs, because every single one of these teams is going to be fouling on both ends, because they're going to just try and push the limits to see what they can get away with. And a lot of it's, if you're going to close game, you're within 5 points in the last 2 minutes, it's going to come down to who can execute their fouls better.
And if you're Marcus Smart and you get rewarded for it, why wouldn't you flop?
Or you're Draymond Green, you're going to get rewarded for it. You're going to have a technical in the first quarter, and then you're going to get away with whatever
you can do whatever you want the rest of the game. Yeah.
Yep. You are unshackled. Let's do our predictions for Lakers Warriors tomorrow night, as well as the series, and then we'll get out of here.
I want the Lakers to win. Give another birthday present to Griffin, so I'm going Lakers.
Man. You're taking them to win?
I'm gonna take them to win in 5, and I think they win by like 15. I think the Warriors are just dejected. I think it's going to be close by half, and I think that the Lakers are going to win the third quarter by just a few points, but that will like mentally break the Warriors, and the Lakers will win the fourth quarter.
I'm going Lakers in 6. I still think the Warriors are they have one last hurrah.
I also am going Lakers in 6, as badly as I want it to be Lakers in 5, and nothing would bring me more joy right now. I think, they've got one more game in the Chase Center. I think the Warriors are going to come out. We might be looking at like a 45-point quarter. And if the Lakers are battling back the entire time, I don't know if they're going to make up the ground. And then I think the Lakers will I don't think this is going 7 games. I think no matter what, the Lakers are going to win this series. And if I'm wrong, we'll come back in a week and we'll make fun of me, and I'll be very dejected.
Last thing, Mo, I just see that thing with Harden. Who is the guy who got shot or something?
The Michigan State.
John
Cho.
That was dope. I think he's going to go to like every game, and I would not mind seeing Harden just continue to kill it.
It'd be great.
That was just a really cool moment.
It's a very sad story, but a very cool story that they connected with each other. Two JHs. both supporting the Sixers.
If we can get Lil Baby and we can get John, was it John Howe? I forget the guy.
I think it's
I
Howe.
think that's what his
I
name
think it's
is.
John Howe.
Yeah.
If we can get them to every game moving forward, then yeah, that is the James Harden that I think we'll need. It's nice having everybody root against the Celtics.
Where's Meek Mill at? Is he in prison right now?
No, he was at game 5 or 4, I think. I think
I
it's
feel
his
like
birthday.
you got to have Meek Mill. Really?
I think it's
Meek
his
Mill
birthday.
early May. All right, let's go.
I mean, I saw that on Twitter, and Twitter's never said an incorrect fact. So.
Yeah, Twitter don't lie.
Let's see, Meek Mill birthday, May 6th. Oh, so it was.
Oh, okay, so he just had it. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Fantastic. Love that for Meek. Yeah, I hope he's there for a win too. And then he can play Dreams and Nightmares, and we can all just have the best night ever.
Yeah, all three of us.
we all we need. All right, boys, let's get out of here. Like I said at the top of the show, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you click the like button. Make sure you comment below with your predictions for the rest of the second round, as well as the Western Conference Finals once we get there. And if you have not done so already, click that subscribe button. And if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever your preferred audio platform may be, make sure you click that follow button. And if you have the option, rate and review, give us 5 stars, share us with your friends, tell them about the Give and Go show. We've got a lot of exciting things that we're going to be working on over the summer to make this better for the next season. But we're getting very close to the end of the first season of the 3 of us together. So feeling good about that. We will celebrate after the finals when the Lakers win their league leading 17 titles, 18 titles, whatever it may be.
18, right?
18. Yeah, they'll get ahead of the Celtics by 1. That's the hope. Or the Sixers might win. The Nets are not going to win, but the Sixers could also win a title.
I'm down for the Mickey Mouse rematch or Lakers Sixers.
Mickey Mouse rematch is what I'm rooting for, but if it's Lakers Sixers, I do favor the Sixers in that one.
Give and Go show
I'll take that too.
Final would be pretty sweet though.
I want Sixers Nuggets. We can get Embiid Jokic because that'll.
That would be
for
cool
the narrative.
too.
That's absolutely true. Unless Jokic, wins it, in which case I assume we won't see you for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, if another Philly sports team loses in the championship.
Oh, what a year it would be.
All
right, guys. We will see you next week.
Peace.
Adios.